like, and I push a button. I mean, it's, and I'm not, you know this, I'm not the most technology. Look at me.
Gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy,
And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, is it not?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. You look good, Coach.
Oh, try it. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Friday in the Quad Cities. It is Friday, May 9th. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we appreciate that. Up over 1,000 subscribers. So if you are subscribing, thank you. If you have not subscribed yet, shame on you. What are you waiting for? Do that. Subscribe. Tell a friend or two, 10, 20 about what we do each and every day here in the Quad Cities, talking a little local sports and more. Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Also, I tell you guys every day, we are live on X, so we appreciate you guys if you're watching live on X. And also, there's a podcast form. So if you don't want to look at this, I understand. And trust me, your next guest didn't look any better than I do. So if you want to check out the audio form and not look at us, we completely understand. It's up on every podcasting platform. Spotify, iHeart, Apple, Podbean, you name it, we should be there. Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. If you have a podcasting platform that you use and you can't find our show, let me know. I'll make sure we get up there ASAP. Well, really excited to wrap up a week of fun shows with one of my favorite people. Up in just a matter of moments is the one and only Dan Pearson. He doesn't like it when I talk overly nice about him, but he's a Quad City legend. He's the reason why a lot of this local sports coverage is the way it is. So we're going to talk to him coming up. He's in my house. I'm super excited. That's coming up in just a little bit. Also, the Pleasant Valley girls track team won the MAC championship last night. It's their third straight. They're 14th in the last 16 years. They're really good. High expectations for what's coming up this spring. So their head coach, Kenny Wheeler, joins us in just a little bit. And also, there is a new pope. As we got off the air yesterday, I looked over to my TV, and it cost me my afternoon because I was going to go work out, go for a run, do all these productive things, and I sat here watching. But the pope is from Chicago, Pope Leo XIV. So a lot of memes and fun stuff out there about the pope in Chicago and all that kind of stuff. At first, it was reported he was a Cub fan. Now it's kind of known that he's a White Sox fan, which in my opinion makes sense because he does have an affection for the poor and suffering, which makes the White Sox perfect. So if you missed this week's shows, quickly on Monday, it was Cinco de Mayo, so we had Snoop at the house, which was a lot of fun. He brought food. It was great. We also talked Caitlin Clark with Tom Kakert and Kyle Huseman. Tuesday, Pat Anger, John Marks, and Noah Wethington. Wednesday, we had Peyton Brown in studio, the Steamwheelers, Ivory Scott, and Nicholas Patrick. And yesterday, we talked about Kate Martin with her dad, Matt Martin, an amazing dude here in the Quad Cities. He's a coach and teacher at United Township. A lot of local ties, obviously, with Kate Martin and her family, the majority of it being here in the Quad Cities. Bryce Lucan, the UT baseball coach, also on. And we had our Throwback Thursday with Denise Hanicka. And finally, we had somebody who classed up the joint a little bit, which was a lot of fun as well. Last but not least, last Friday we had Kirk Ferentz on the show. If you missed that, go check it out on the YouTube channel. Next week we'll have Brett Bielema. We're not sure which day, but we have confirmation that Illinois fans can leave me alone. I'm fair and unbiased. I even got their helmet on the set, which Dan would have never thought he'd ever saw on my set before. So Brett Bielema sometime next week. Kendra Lewis probably on Monday as well. Rocker Ridge standout, had a fantastic season with Wisconsin on the softball field. So a lot to get to next week, but without further ado, I got to make sure I do everything correctly. And Dan knows how bad I am with technology, so I got mic you up, Dan. And then without further ado, Dan Pearson is in the house. Hi, buddy.
It's great to be here. What a letdown, actually. You've had an unbelievable week, and now...
No, I said John Marks, so it wasn't
I feel better. No,
it was an
right.
average week at best.
Right.
Thank you for doing this. Before we get going, I kind of tell people this a lot, but there's a lot of people I talked with over the fall, and I tell Jen that Breakfast with Dan Pearson changed everything. So first off, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for dealing with me like you have for years and years and years. And thank you for your support as well, because it's been a blast.
Always a privilege. And we all live kind of the same journey that it's so unique describing what it is to be in TV media. and it changes. Your life changes. You probably said never. I'll never say never. I would never leave Channel 8 or whatever. And you know what? Life does change. You have children, and technology changes things like that. And you've done a great job. You're crushing it here, and the TV's changing too. So I think this is what we're going to see. Within 5 or 10 years, the appointment TV might be pretty much gone.
And you're the same way. I never bash TV or what I did, and I love doing it. Wouldn't trade it for the world. But things evolve. I was just talking to Denise yesterday. Like, I would love to go back and relive some of the newsrooms that I was part of, and some of the Friday nights that we were part of and stuff. But like, it does change and evolve, and we change and evolve along with it. So tell people what you're doing. If you don't know out there, shame on you. There's a commercial every single show that talks about it. But when I think of Dan Pearson, I think of local sports, and I think of religion and your faith. And you get to tie them together every single day, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, so I'm what's called a multi-area director for Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So I have 3 different areas that I get to pour into with 3 different area directors, and there's area reps everywhere. So there's 23 counties altogether. I started as an area rep. That's kind of what I wanted to do coming out of TV, to say I want to still go to schools, but with the camera and a Bible, So that kind of quickly changed. I became a director within 9 months. So eventually I think I will kind of take the foot off the accelerator and become an area rep again. So I have more opportunity to be with coaches and athletes too. And I kind of cheat a lot because I do have the camera. And so it does serve my staff and my board and my donors if I show up with the camera and celebrate what's going on at some of these schools too. So
talk about that too, though, because it is making an impact. And while you can do different things, that's what you love, is being around young people. I always say that you shared what they did we shared what they did on the field, and now you can share your faith with them as well, which is much more important than what they were doing on the field. Yeah, and
that's what I learned. Mixing media with ministry has been the thing, and it's like, for here, when I first started here, it was called Iowa FCA. I had both sides of the river, and every county touching the Mississippi River was like basically our viewing area. So it was easy because I had been in every school umpteen times, knew almost every coach probably. So it's just been a really good fit that way. So it's been more of a challenge. I will say Peoria, I started there in TV, but I was like, that was 40 some years ago. The people are really kind. Oh yeah, I remember. No, you don't. I was only on a year there. Then I went to Springfield and stuff, and so getting to serve up in Rockford and stuff. So building boards, building donors, but getting the gospel in front of kids and coaches is the most important thing. And it's definitely a tool. When I show up with a camera, I always say it's not me probably. It's the camera, and what I've tried to do with getting into people's lives. 99% of my stories are not Jesus-y. They're just like relational, to get in their world and try to put our staff in front of them too. It's like, hey, here's a way for you. We have these unbelievable resources that make their lives better as coaches, and coaches are number one. Most people would say it's got to be the kids, but the coaches are the influencers. Yeah. You've seen that through the years, and we believe the coach is the most influential person in America now.
Which is on the commercial, I think you said.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's like, if they see their coach changed, and like one of the great things that we have this summer is FCA football, and I think Gene and I are going to go and serve there. It's you bring your wife, football coach, to Branson, Missouri, and then they pour into you, and you're with 100 other coaches and their wives, and they build in like 7 hours of alone time in Branson, where it's beautiful. It's like, okay, shut it down. And like, I don't know if you remember Brad Dixon. He's from here originally. Yeah. And then he and his wife went, and then they won the state championship that year. I was like, okay, it's FCA state title. That happened in Anawan one year too, when the girls basketball team, they had probably 4 of them go to a leadership camp with FCA, and I think you probably remember the name Megan Foes and all. Yeah. We've remained close. So she's married and has 2 kids now too, and we took full credit for them winning the state title. Yeah. Too. Well, sorry, Jason Berkowitz.
I think. Well, that's the thing too. That's the funny part about the Pope thing, is every Bears fan thinks they're going to win the Super Bowl. You're not going to win the Super Bowl. And when I thought he was a Cub fan, I was like, okay. And then when I found out he was a White Sox fan, it has nothing to do with all of that.
Yeah. I got to hand some stuff off for you. By the way.
Absolutely.
So these are from today's Geneseo FCA. So you remember, the Johnsons, Larry and Larry.
Yeah.
So Bonnie Johnson she's next level when it comes to cheesy eggs. Okay, so
Okay.
every Friday morning they're just some very
look
important
at that.
people to me.
And
so,
a donut too.
And yeah, from the Geneseo Donut Shop. Apparently, that is the best in the world. Apparently.
Oh wow,
So
that's
some other stuff.
outstanding.
Something for you to take your notes on when you're booking.
Oh, I
Many
love it.
guests you have.
See, look at this. Some people bring one thing. Dan brings plenty.
That's for Charlie, because I'm going to shame you. Alleman's like the only school in the Western Big Six and MAC that doesn't have an FCA huddle. So if you know anybody who suddenly has a lot of extra time on his hands that would want to lead that, you let me know.
I love it. I love it.
And then this is bobblehead Bruce Sutter, one of my favorites.
That's awesome.
Got that.
Look at this.
And probably the most thing you'll treasure the most.
Brian Stocking. I wish I was actually back at the station where I could get a close up, but like that is actually. We're going to talk about Brian Stocking.
It's priceless. He's a beautiful man.
How young a man is he right now?
That was the 2009 state championship game, and that's me, 2 inches from his face there with the camera, and he didn't budge. He loves the camera, and and
you know what he does. He acts like
he acts like he doesn't. But.
And the sad part is, I don't know if it's sad or impressive. And you can tell me the coat he's wearing right here, Dan, is the same coat he wore this fall out on the patio
too. So
God bless him. He's
Bless
a
his
little
heart.
more hair, Box
it's
Stockpile.
true.
Well, thank you for I'm going to find a nice little spot for him. I got to figure it all out. But you mentioned with Stockpile. Everybody, a lot of people remember you from your KWQC days. I want to, when you came up here, so you started in Peoria, and when you got back here, tell me how, and it's amazing. I have a show that I'm going to talk about the highlight zone on, because I used to not. The biggest thing that frustrated, and I loved what Dan did, and I interned for it, but I hated when people would say to me, and it's all credit to you, man, I love your guys' highlight zone. I watched your guys' highlight zone. I'm like, it's got a name, and it's got. So when did that idea come about to do the Friday nights? I love how people have said he didn't invent Friday. Well, he kind of invented the concept of Friday nights and what we do. Yeah. So take me through the thought process.
Yeah. So like you said, my first job was in Peoria, and just coming out, I worked with a guy. I interned at Channel 25, where our buddy Jim Mattson is. He's kind of both.
Another goat.
But I interned under a guy named Les Shapiro, who went on to have an unbelievable career in Denver, covered 1 million Super Bowls and stuff. He was one of my mentors. And then my first job was at Channel 19, and Doug Bell was a sports guy there. We became good buddies, and we kind of covered a lot of games, but not enough. We didn't get time. And I kind of came up with the concept then of the highlight zone. And no, we're not doing that. We don't have the resources. Did the same thing in Springfield. I was there for about a year. No, we don't have the resources. And then came here and had the opportunity. TC changed to having Friday nights off. I said, well, here's my opportunity. And so I kind of eased my way into it. I threw a script at Paula and said, hey, Paula, why don't you make the call, Yeah. And she read the highlights and everything. And it went on for 2 or 3 weeks where we were getting 8 or 9 games. And that was a lot back then, because we didn't have the bodies to do it. And then all of a sudden, I actually had people say, this has run its course, you got to quit doing this. And it was like, oh my gosh. And then a shoe company from up in Milwaukee wrote a big fat check to put their logo on it. And so like that, it went to 15 minutes. So we had to do it. And it took on this life. And, I don't know, I felt like really God really blessed it, because I didn't become a Christian until I was 30. And then all that stuff, and I came on, and I realized this is the platform that I have. But it just took on a great life, and we had great guys go through there. Stocking is one of them, and if you remember Hank Strunk and Corey and yourself, and just people after, and the interns.
Ryan
were really
Nolan.
Good. Ryan Nolan, Doug Bisbee was one of them.
Yeah.
So
some guy named Bully.
So we had these personalities too, where I always felt like I'm kind of Andy Griffith, and I'm the straight man setting them up. And then they were really good photographers too, and a lot of them. The guy named Ross Farrow, Greg Armstrong, obviously too, and just they were really below it. He was a little less than neutral.
C student. There's nothing wrong with being a C student.
Hey, David Letterman gives out scholarships for C students. But it did. It's like I thought, am I the weird one? Because I had to sell it every week to the desk and stuff. And and they say, well, if this is going on in Kewanee, a flower show, that's much more important than a high school football game. And I'm like, there's 2,000 people at that game. So it took on a life where it's like I knew I would have the people that would that are crazy about high school sports like me. But then we did the themes and stuff like that. I figured out that to draw other people in to see what's going to happen next, that the Kewanee person might stick around to see what the Wilton highlights are going to be, because some kid's going to be on TV presenting it. So, and it got to the point where, people started actually calling in their scores and stuff. Back then I remember calling Whitey's all the time at a place called Spudley's in Cambridge. Who's got the score? It's 14 after 10, so. But it was a pleasure, and start working on it about Tuesday and figure it out and start lobbying with the assignment desk, and with a sponsor, they had to do it. They had to go, and it was counterculture to what a newscast was. For sure.
When you mentioned some of the names, and I think that's what made it. That's why I grew up watching, and Paula did a great job with it. Terry did a great job with it. Whoever, that's the thing I thought that was great, is they embraced it and did a great job making the call. So while they were the, maybe the unseasoned non-sports person, they became sports people by the time all that was said and done.
Yeah, that was the beauty of it, because, and they started paying attention to I said that kid's name last week too. So I think they took on an appreciation, and that's what changed for me again after I became a Christian, that the kids were no longer just fodder for the sales department to make a bunch of money. The relationships grew there, and it was the kids that were even on the field who were in the stands introducing games, and you've done it, highlighting the band and those kind of things too. And I think it was, I heard Pat Elder, I don't know if it was here, but he said 28% of the student body is involved on a Friday night with the band dance.
It was here. Thank you for watching, Dan. Well done.
Yeah, so it's exciting. I love what you do on the highlight zone, by the way. No, just
darn you. Well, and it's funny because we talk about. I would tell people all the time. I would go to, and this is the specific practice I remember. Vic Boblet, awesome guy, and very great, very good to us, but he had rules. Larry Johnson's the same way, and you respect those. Hey, they want you there before practice, after practice, but practice is mine, which makes perfect sense. So I remember getting there, and I was talking to Vic. We got done. I was younger, but I felt like I was getting a little bit of a footing. I'm like, Vic likes me. We're friends. I'm and I went over, shook his hand. Vic, I appreciate it. And then you rolled in and you hugged him. And I was as good as I'm getting with the hand, we're Dan, and it's about relationships. And I think that's and then on the flip side of it, Corey and I had talked in recent years that we were kind of now TC and Dan relationship wise more than icons like they are. But we now have the relationships with the coaches that if something happens, they're friends, and kind of talk to that, because to this day, I guarantee you're friends with coaches that you just met because you covered. That was the beauty of our job, is not just coaches, but young people become parts of our life because of what we got to do for a living.
And it still plays out. Coach Boblet was our MC a couple weeks ago for our banquet, and it was just he made fun of me when he was up on the stage and told stories and stuff too. And you realize that the impact that you can have in hall humility. And that's what one of my goals was always, that you can be on TV and be humble. You've probably seen some egos through the years.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a guy, I was at a game, one of my grandson's games, just watching a game, and a guy gets out and said, Dan Pearson? I said, yeah. And Paul Byer, a star from here before, he said, used to cover me and all that. And there's been so many people. A guy on my board in Peoria, he said, I'm from Moline, and it was just kind of he said, I used to watch you all the time. Now he's on my board. So those connecting points, it goes into something else too. And I've always said that, to make something happen, you combine two things. And that's with the ministry and the media too. So it's just, it's this. It's the same thing, where you've got that wave of relationships. And we do this thing called E3, engage, equip, and empower. And the engaging piece is somebody and people, how many coaches do you know? And I said, I bet I know 5,000 coaches, But the engaging piece is you don't just know them, you've also presented the gospel to the coaches, to which, Jesus came to this earth and lived a life we can't, died a death, that should have been ours, and he died and rose again. So that puts an extra good pressure on you to say, okay, if I'm engaged with them, I have shared the faith. And then the equipping part is, hey, coach, you want to be in a Bible study? Or I've got this material, or we want to start a huddle at your school. And then the empower, engage, equip, empower, you say, coach, you're leading it now. You know, you can do it. And that's discipleship multiplication, and it's all based on relationships. And you know, you get to the point in your career, you probably did too, where because you have shown up when, you know, nobody else did or whatever, they're the one, they call you when there is a better story mid-season. And people always thought I was crazy I did usually 35 to 40 previews in August, and it was stress city. But I remember driving through cornfields and stuff like that, and people would get on you and say, nobody cares. It's like, I got news for you. Yeah. And that is where you find the compelling stories. And I think that's part of the reason why the highlight zone became a big deal, because I had built those relationships. And there was a guy, he's one of your former, he was a weekend guy one time. And I remember at Newman one time, the guy in the PA, we were shooting a Saturday game or something, be sure to watch Channel 6, you know, and the guy went up and complained to the athletic director later, and said, listen, we put effort into it. And then the gentleman, he called me and said, well, Dan's been coming here since 1987. We didn't know, you know? So, and I didn't, like, I felt bad for the dude, but I mean, there's certain favor you get by considering others better than yourselves. It's like, you know, getting up at 5 a.m. to go shoot a preview in Wapello or whatever, you know, I mean, you got to invest in people. So.
And those previews, like, and now it's harder because they don't do the 2-a-days and all that kind of stuff. But exactly. I remember I'd do 3 and then take a break and then go do 2 more. And we, same thing. You'd get why are we doing these? They're all the same. They're redundant. And I'm like, but they're not the same because the kids are different. So that community is enjoying it and loving it. And then when it comes to the season, I always had trouble, Dan, and just up until last year, my week 1 and 2 and 3 are so hard for me because it's everybody's big game. You know, by the time you get to week 6, week 7, you can be like, they're far away and like they're struggling and we don't need. But everybody, talk about Friday nights because, and it's basketball season to an extent, and I love the basketball stuff as well. But like, again, you have Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays. There's a lot of basketball that goes on. Heck, even Mondays and Wednesdays if you're small schools out here. Friday nights are just different because that's what it is. It's that town shutting down and going to that game, and it's still to that point.
Yeah, and I think, and that I have such high regard for what happened in the 50s, 60s, 70s, you know, before media became a thing, because that was the only sport really. There was 4 or 5 sports in a school and stuff. And again, like I said before, everybody participates. Friday nights were an event for the town, you know, probably more so in smaller towns than bigger towns. But, you know, that's a piece that you just totally embrace and say, this is important to this person. And this might be the only time they're ever on TV and stuff. And I always felt like, you know, you walk into gyms now and there's the senior pictures up that are 5 feet high, and I'm like, I think, am I partially responsible for blowing, you know, this? And I feel like that sometimes too. Did it in a weird way, put pressure on kids too, to like, you know, I rushed for 240 yards last week, you know. So I mean, you know, to make it a celebration was really important to me. And like, you know, as I have 6 grandchildren now, and like my message to them is just enjoy our Tessa. She's the only girl. And she is just a fireball. She's really talented and stuff like that too. And she ended up going for the state championship for free throw shooting. So that was last weekend or the weekend before. And
was that down in Effingham?
Effingham, yeah.
Chase went. My 10-year-old went down there.
Awesome.
We drove 8 hours round trip to shoot 25 free throws
for 3.5 minutes.
Kind of stupid, kind of dumb, but we had a blast with it. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
But yeah, she advanced.
Did you go?
No, she told my daughter
there.
Katie said don't go. Yeah. So it was. I got to go to one of them. She had like 21 of 25 or something to it. Keep advancing along the way. Yeah. And her expression never changed, you know, miss or not. So I think she hit 19 or something there. It's like, and she's that way with soccer and softball. She's going to be, whatever season it is, she's going to play. She's very talented. Her dad played soccer at Bradley when they had a really good team. He's just a great coach, Brian, where he knows how to really get kids going and communicates that your identity isn't in the outcome. And I just had a soundbite that I used to promote one of our events coming up, Game Day. You've helped with that before to promote it at the John Deere Classic. And I interviewed her last year, and I put it together. And she said, it just helps me to know that my score does not indicate how God feels about me. It's not going to change. So to take that and tell parents, like, it's okay. Let's settle down a little bit. And that's like, not to get off and start getting on my soapbox or anything, but that's my fear, concern with what travel ball has become at some 100%. Levels too. So, and that's something FCA deals with now. We're starting, it's called FCA Sports, and that's kind of our answer to the not so good stuff. Mm-hmm. And we're gonna probably get involved with some leagues that will not be playing on Sundays, things like that. And people, boy, we're taking us on a tangent here.
You're good.
My 8-year-old's not going to get a scholarship unless he plays 80 games in a summer. And I'm like, as somebody who's been down that road and from an observation standpoint, and my kids are grown now too, I'm like, if they study, they're probably going to get 50% off.
Yeah.
So
there's not a lot of baseball scholarships out there anyways, guys. Like,
yeah,
just
if you do, it's 10%.
Yeah, it's not like there's not a lot
they
of
spread those babies out. And
Dan, I tell people all the time, you've probably had more, but I can only think of 3 Major League Baseball players that I covered, and it's Jacob Junis, Cody Sedlock, and Dakota Backus.
Right.
Those are the 3. Now, Tyson Blazer and the people of great minor league and college-wise, I'm not saying that, but no, I mean, I think it's the second time around with me. My oldest 2 are almost, like, Charlie's now in high school, and my second 2 are doing, like, the travel stuff, and I feel like the older parent kind of watching going, it's an April tournament in Muscatine, and like it's not that the end all be all. Like, don't worry about it. It's not the end of the world. Like, Charlie's got, and that's because he's on good teams, not because of you, Charlie. No, I'm just kidding. But he's got boxes full of stuff downstairs and trophies and medals. And I talked to the Hardings about it. And like, Shannon's like, we got rid of most. I mean, we just got stuff. So like, everybody's chasing these trophies and medals and rings that get fancier and sparklier, but like it doesn't. I had Taylor Pannerl on the show before the season started, and she talked about the injury, and she said, she's like, that's when I finally learned for the first time that I'm not Taylor Pannerl, the softball player, and you feel that. And Peyton Brown was in that chair a few days ago, and she's like, I lost the love of the game, and it's like, but I always tell my boys and all kids, like, you're going to be a dad, a husband, a lawyer, teacher, doc, whatever. That's going to, like, you're going to look back at these great memories, but it doesn't shape what you are and who you do. And sometimes you're right, especially with the travel aspect of everything. It's like, we got to get as good as we can quickly, and they lose perspective of a lot of different things. Now that you're on the outside looking in, well, first off, I guess, like, to get out, we talked about, and I talk about it too much probably, but it takes a little, like, I joke with people, it's kind of like a gang, where like, once you get into the TV business, sometimes it's hard to get out. Was it difficult for you to make the change, and what made you realize the time was right to do something different?
Yeah, for me, it took about 5 years from the time I started thinking and praying about it. There's a good buddy, Tim Schneckloth, who was the area director on the Iowa side. We started talking about it, and I became the huddle coach in Geneseo, where we live. And so I did that for about 11 years before I came on. And it was like, I don't know, because is it ego? Like, I can't give this up, and I don't want to let anybody down or anything like that. And, I came to terms with that Channel 6 wasn't going to slide 8 blocks into the Mississippi River because Dan Pearson left the local coverage, so you got to get over that. And then when it became a calling from God, I felt that. And then, my last year at Channel 6 is when they went high def, digital and everything. And so I wouldn't have known. I got trained in that for my last year so I could do the stuff that would ultimately be, on the internet too. So, so the timing was really good. I was 50. My kids were getting married and stuff like that. So there was always, and you felt it, I'm sure, the guilt. Like, both of my girls were 3-sport athletes. One of them played 5 sports, and it's like, I'm chasing everybody else's kids around. But Gina made me succeed in everything, and there were just a lot of times I was able.
She's way too good for you.
She really is, and I hear that if I had a
that.
nickel for every time, I'd be fully funded as an
Yes,
FCA
right?
guy. But I don't know. It's just when you know, and you gotta. There's a verse in the Bible, Matthew 5:37. Let your yes be yes and your no no. Don't look back. And I had a lot of support from people, and I have 5 brothers, and they thought, you're covering Rose Bowls, and it's like, but you get that stuff out of your system, I guess, at many levels. And as when I first started, it's like we would go to the spring training and go do half-hour shows. And my first year here, I think I went to the Rose Bowl and the NCAA tournament at Pauley Pavilion, and just stuff like that. But then your life evolves, and you kind of get to the point where the high school stuff did matter more to me. And you remember Dave Revson, who's now big.
Yeah.
So when he went to ESPN, his agent saw my show and said, they want you too, for ESPN News, when they were just starting that. And I don't think I would have made the mothership or whatever. But so that was when our girls were middle school age. Yeah. And Gina and I were like, we're not moving. Yeah. We're at a critical point. And I mean, God bless anybody who can pull it off, but I have no regrets with that. And like one of my cousins, he played for the Steelers and the Chiefs. He was the other wide receiver on the Immaculate Reception play.
Oh, yeah.
And so he lived out in Hartford in his working life after football and everything. He said, you know what? You're living in the Midwest. The cost of living and the people are so much nicer. Yeah. And so when you have people relationally pouring into you and praying to God, thinking vertically and thinking eternal, too. It's like you said, even as an athlete, you tell kids, it's like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're not going to believe how much effort you put into that for something you don't even remember the score of the games, too.
My kids go travel baseball. I was just talking to Charlie the other day, and he was blessed to go, blessed is the right word, but he would do a lot of fun trips. And every one of them has a great story, and none of it's about baseball. No. It's like there's no game-winning hits or big hits. I'm not saying there were none. Relax, Charlie. You had some hits. But it's the stuff outside of it that they remember more than anything else. It's funny you mentioned, I think it was 2015. I covered the Rose Bowl, and then 3 months later, I covered Iowa basketball in Brooklyn. And I had never been to New York. I'd never been to California. And I did both, and it was great. But I also had 3 kids at the time at home. And I remember going to Buffalo a few years ago and watching Iowa lose. And the 12-year-old me would have been distraught. And the first thing that comes into my mind, Dan, was I'm going to be home by tomorrow. Go home. And I'm going to get to see my kids. And that's when it started for me, when it was like, I shouldn't be rooting against my favorite teams in order to go spend time with my family. That doesn't equate. So, and that's when you, I want to talk to you about a bunch more things. I'm going to take a quick break, but I want to talk to you about, and not in a bashing way, but your thoughts of local media and newspapers and those kind of things, and the evolution of different. View from the West is a great thing, but the evolution of local sports, that and a bunch more. We got Dan Pearson in the house. You're watching Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. We'll be back right after this. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Here, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with.
Quad Cities, are you brave enough for halfway to Halloween? Friday, May 16th, the Steamwheelers battle on Tulsa in a night of haunted hits and bone-crushing indoor football action. It's spooky fun for the whole family, complete with a haunted house and high-flying IFL football that'll leave you howling. Snag your tickets now at steamwheelersfootball.com/tickets and come get scared and entertained. Friday night, May 16th, presented by Asylum of Bad Dreams and Slick Willie Radio.
The PGA Tour swings into the Quad Cities again this summer, and you don't want to miss it. The John Deere Classic brings golf, music, magic, and more to TPC Deer Run, July 2nd through the 6th. Wednesday, July 2nd is Youth Day, and ages 15 and under are free all week, making it perfect for the whole family. Stick around after the golf on the weekend for the concerts on the Course Series, featuring country superstar Dierks Bentley on Saturday, and Grammy Award-winning Zac Brown Band on Sunday. Come for the golf, stay for the party. Visit JohnDeereClassic.com to get your tickets before they sell out.
Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Friday, and what a way to wrap up the week than hanging out with my good friend Dan Pearson. So Dan, if anybody doesn't remember, Dan, a sportscaster here forever, or what, 30 years?
It was 24 years, and then I was on 29 total in Peoria and Springfield and everything too. So I'm still doing stories.
Yeah.
I guess so. I think this was like my 43rd year covering IHSA sports.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, and that's my thing too, is I tell people, like, I still get to, I'm in it, I'm doing it. I'm just picking and choosing. Yep. And it's a different form of going to do it. But, we look at like it's just, things change, things evolve. It's all, and I was proud of, like, I mean, I what was it for the last 5 years? More than that, probably. Like, you were part of it more than that. How long did you shoot for, or have shot for WQAD when it comes to like Friday nights?
It's been 13 years at least.
Gosh,
so, yeah.
I said 5. But there was at one point where Greg was with us, Cuff was over. We finally convinced Stockpile that it's not letters, it's people. And so he had him. You were doing, I remember sitting there going, like, I'm planning out my Friday night, and I have like Corey shooting, Greg shooting, Dan shooting, I'm shooting. Like, if we could get bullied and not be lazy. But it has changed. So I guess, what are your thoughts on the evolution of it? I mean, there's good parts about it. I think the fact that WQAD and the score went 45 minutes this year is awesome, and going outside and all those kind of things. But there's also some drawbacks to it as well. I hate to see what happens with newspaper. Tom Johnston's killing it, doing awesome stuff. But your thoughts on where local media has kind of gone?
Yeah, from the technology standpoint, it's in an incredible place right now. Where, I mean, when I first started, and I mean, going back to that, like when I was in high school, our teams won state championships sophomore, junior, and senior year, and the coverage was kind of minimal. Yeah, because it was just getting into the video age where the video's there. You didn't, have to put chemicals in the film and stuff too. And so, like, when I started, we used these cameras called TK-76s, they were called, and they were a cinder block with a lens sticking out of it, and you carry it around on your shoulder, and the batteries around your waist, pulling your pants down as you're running up and down the sidelines. And so it was impossible to do what you did. And now in the digital age, I don't know how many times prior to that, when it was tape to tape, and if you wanted to get a game at LaSalle, Peru, or whatever, you had to take the live truck or drive back like a maniac, so that part, the technology side, is good. I would say fantastic opportunities for that. But the saddest part is newspapers, because I remember the late, great Daryl Bates, he said on some of the, like when they were on fire, he had 29 crews out, so people, and some of them were part-time, covering games and stuff too. And so to see that, just what the depth of what newspaper writing is and was, and all the great guys that we know, who wrote just compelling stories. And I always thought there should be a good relationship between TV and newspapers. There was an edge many times, but I always thought what we could provide on a Friday night was just the tip of the iceberg, and then, okay, read the paper tomorrow, because you're going to get the depth of it. You're going to see more interviews, stuff like that. But, with what, like WRMJ, that's rare air, what they're able to do, and they're so good. And
isn't Ty so much better than his old man?
Oh, not even close.
Like, it's crazy.
Right. It is. So it's almost a reverse mentoring now. But just kidding. But the I don't know, with what podcasting is becoming now too, and people want content, I guess, too, and the part, like with what a newscast is right now, I think it might go away, but I don't think the Friday night show will ever go away, because people always say when it's a live event, it's only live once. And it's kind of like, I don't know if I want to watch the show on Monday that I already know all the scores and stuff too. So there's just something about an energy. You were at the game that night and stuff. Like even Coach Bob a couple of weeks ago, we would rush home, and he said there's people like at Booster Club meeting, he said they'd leave the game early to go watch. He couldn't watch it later.
Yeah.
And I remember it was coaches would say we'd listen to the replay on 87.7. They couldn't even see.
Yes, I remember.
So it's come so far, and it's a scramble at many levels, because you fight and fight and fight to get some dude permission, an intern permission to drive a car. Yeah. Stuff like that. But there's just, again, the sky's the limit, where there's some things, like I think less is more, but not on Friday night. Like sometimes I watch shows from all over the state still, because I can, and there's sometimes, probably more so in the spring, when you probably shouldn't show 9 baseball games, because it looks like this. It does look like the same stuff. There's something about Friday night that's very special, and like I really encourage people that ask me, it's like, come up with the compelling stories leading up to the crescendo on Friday night. So I mean, there's a lot of talented people out there, and like I said, with what media is right now, they'll go for it, and they get that content too.
It's funny, Dan, because I mean, even recently, maybe I was told like maybe sports isn't that important during the week, but Fridays are always Friday. Yeah, and that's one thing, and it was great. But like it to the days of just getting, and that's where I was getting to the point of where, and I love getting as many highlights as possible, but you're not doing justice when you can, like most of these games are on TV, on YouTube. You can go watch them and stuff. So I'm really, and I've told him this, and I don't like being nice to him, but like proud of Greg and people, because people are looking for more. That's why I love the 45 minutes, because we could be at games longer. We could stay at like those 3 or 4 big games. We tried to stay there the whole time. We could talk to coaches afterwards, all those kind of things. I think that's more than ever. Just like everything, it kind of evolves and changes. But that Friday night will always, it's just never going to go away. And it's special. It's awesome. It's just unique and different. Do you have a crazy story from a Friday night? Like people ask me like, and I know I can go to my little, I tell, like, what's a good Friday night story, like, of craziness that people don't realize what we go through?
Yeah, the process, people would be amazed, like, how lucky we've gotten through the years. And, like, running out on the set, when it was still tape to tape, when 6 things weren't ready, when you're going out there and it's the 2 minutes before it starts. And what I had was, I had this group of ladies at my church, when you'd see the tees coming up on the highlight zone, and that's please pray. Because there are going to be 6 or 7 things that are not ready, But one night, like Hank, who we mentioned before, he was shooting a game, probably 2 games. One, and the last game was in Galesburg, and he's on 74 coming back. It's like 20-10, quarter to 10, and he's driving quickly. And a cop car
driving fast and taking
drive fast, take chances.
Yep.
And so a cop car pulls up next to him and looks down at the side of the car and goes, "Go ahead," because he had to get back in time to do it, and he made it. Yeah. So just things like that, where how did it happen? Sometimes when you just think an hour prior, and like they used to always make fun of me because suffered from Pearsonitis, which would stay longer than the other stations and stuff. And I'm like, are people really flipping?
I would sit and go like, when's Dan gonna leave? He's got to leave because I can't leave till Dan leaves. But this is impossible. But
then I'd sneak out to the car to make it look like I left. Then I'd go back.
well,
And, how do you get that such?
I remember there was I don't know why this sticks in my head. There was a Sherrard Wrestling sectional going on, and I don't know, we had gone to a bunch of different things. We followed each other. Like I joke with people, there was a decade where I spent more time with Dan than I did my wife, which is why we're probably both still married. And I wouldn't say happily on my part, but for years
she's been happily married for 3 or 4 years
yeah,
at least.
exactly. So, right. So but like it's leaving and you're leaving and you're like, I got 20 minutes to get back and get all this stuff in. It's the thrill of it. It's the adrenaline of it. Talk about afterwards, because some of my favorite memories are just like, and we did it till last fall, sitting in just the office, exhaling and like exchanging stories of, you think my night was crazy or your night was crazy. This is what happened to me. You have to, it's the thrill of the fight. And then just the kind of calm afterwards and talking about what the heck just happened.
Yep. And I always thought that could have been the biggest element there was when it came to staff care, because we take care of every once in a while, we bring some food in and stuff. And I always thought, well, later, I should say, it was the podcast before there was a podcast. You know, it's just like a bunch of guys sitting around talking about it, pop in the other stations, show, oh, we won that one, or we lost that one, you know, and
it's so funny how like I always think people kept track. And they didn't.
No, they did.
Like, and Wheezy would always say to me, there's not like, or Andy McKay would too, like, they're not keeping score. Well, they may not be, but we are. And Dan, there's not people, and Dan taught me correctly, because there was a time in Geneseo and I was a little young punk and all competitive, and it was a softball before softball had runs. Do you remember the days where if you missed the one, they moved the mound back and it changed, and I ran out of batteries and it was like 21 inning nonsense. And you're like, here are my keys, my there's a battery in my car. I'm like, are you serious? And you're like, yeah, just go get it. And I'm like, oh, like, yes, we compete, but we're all in this together. But I have some bad stories, and Greg knows them. It was more with Greg than you, but like I'd see Greg on a Friday night and he'd be like, hey, how many games you get, or how's your night going, or whatever. And I'm like, and I don't know why I do it, but I go like, oh, we lost people. Like, we're going to be down games. I know, and it's 6:30 at night. Like, nothing's going to change. It's not like if I told him the truth, he could be like, we need to call in backups and blah, blah, blah. Like, it is like the hay's in the barn. And then he would say, like, we'd watch and I'd be like, well, he lied about that. He lied about that. He lied. So it didn't make me the best of people, but there was that competition of going and getting it and doing it. But I loved for the most part, and I talked about this with Denise yesterday, like, and Birch told me a long time ago, there's sports guys and there's people who want to be on TV. And for the most part, and there's a few exceptions that I'm not going to get into, but the people we've worked with over the last, for me, 25 years and you longer, they're good people. Whatever station they're at. There's a few interesting ones, but for the most part, they're all good people.
Yeah, and the sports guys are a different fraternity, I would say, too. Like, we understood each other so much, and we covered the same thing. Mostly, it was a news conference, whatever, in Iowa City. We're all going to be there. That kind of stuff, too. So you do build up an appreciation and an awareness and a compassion for them when there are 3 guys who are sick, that they're going to lose some games that way. And you can't get personal with it. And it's like, there are a couple people through the years that I definitely wanted to beat. You know, it's like, you weren't one of them. It was just like healthy competition, and it was for the good of the kids. But there were some times, and I'm very competitive, probably overly competitive with a lot of things too. So that stirred my juices sometimes, and I like doing it. But I have high appreciation, probably even more so now, when I see something good. But then I see some of the stuff that's getting on now, and probably not sports related so much, but a newscast for 30 minutes, like, well, that probably could have been done differently, or that person obviously didn't have time to shoot what they wanted, and the quality of the shooting, maybe. And like the Quad Cities used to be your second or third job. now it's almost many times your first job
Yeah.
too. So you haven't had that seasoning in a super small market and all that kind of stuff.
I'm going to
too.
get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to say it. Like when I started, it was like, and it wasn't, it was my first job, but I worked from behind the scenes and up. But like, it was like people were coming, it was their second job, like you just said. And then it was like, hey, gosh, I don't mean this in a mean way, but hey, you're getting first guys out of are people out of college, but they're A students. They're like really good. And now those people are almost getting jobs in like Indianapolis and Milwaukee already. And like, you're not getting the C students, but like, you know what I mean? Like it's just become younger. And I can remember when I was doing it being too young to do it. And it was like, I've been doing it for 5 years and I'm still too young to do it. So I understand. And I get all that for sure. I'm going to do some word association with you, because these are my favorites. I didn't think I'd have a visual for one of them, but now I do. Corey Cuffler.
Driven. These are one words.
You can do
Well, I got
you
1,000
can
words
expand
for
if
him.
you want to.
Friend.
Say the word and then just expand if you want to a little bit.
Okay. I would throw in friend, loyal, just available,
handsome. I mean, if he looks a little bit like me,
handsome, strikingly handsome. You're handsome, but come on, Corey.
It's funny because we would
got
always
the classic high cheekbones. So.
we would have teams come in, or like people for the score, and we'd always play the game like who's older, and they would always say me. And like, then that's not the case. Cuff's like 105 years old, but one, he was always in better shape probably. And two, like I would always joke, I'm like, well, Corey, I'm just more mature. And he would, I say this all the time. Corey and I never had a huge argument in 14 years of working together. And that's 95% because of him.
Yeah.
Like he's just very level headed. If he gets upset, we can deal with it later, all that kind of stuff. No, he's one of the best of the best. Tom Cornelis.
Mentor. Friend, advocate, allowed me to kind of do my thing, I guess, too. And so he, he's not that much older than me, but I remember watching him and everything. I mean, all the guys that were back in the day kind of stuff. And he called me about the job, and I was like, I was kind of blown away about it. And just, he was a blast to work with, and just, he made a difference. And I don't know if he's going to write this book, but he has a title for it, and it's kind of ex post facto, but he's going to call the name of his book "Only the Weatherman Wears Pants." And it was like,
he needs to write it.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, it's one. Speaking of other Paula Sands.
Paula Sands was very much a friend, and just really became a sounding board, and she became a strong Christian. Like I remember she pulled me into an edit booth once and said, "Hey, I got baptized last night," and just so smart and so talented, so gifted, success story, who's someone who climbed through for so long and iconic. I think she's still the face of Quad City TV forever. She's, if there was a Mount Rushmore with just one, it's her. There should be a statue somewhere.
And so, I would say, being on the opposite side of the number one station, that she was a huge reason why. And like you could say like, but our newscast was better, or like certain things. Yeah. But Paula's there, like it's still Paula, and that's what people know. Absolutely.
Well, she was enduring. That was the part of it too, and that's one of the advantages Channel 6 had. They, for a long stretch, nobody left.
Yeah,
so.
And that's I remember talking to a news director that's not there now, but a friend of mine still that at our place, and it was our news director, and that was what he was trying to do in a certain era. He's like, I think you'll be here for a while, and Zahara will be here for a while, and that's important. People want to see the same person over and over again. Don Sharp.
Don Sharp, he's an icon too, and it's like I remember him, and just amazement would be a great word, because I think there are so many times that he was like calling a Rocky game. It's 10 till 10, and he's doing the 10:20 sportscast too, and how he put that stuff together, knowing throughout his career the resources were not there, but he had a way. Like there was a guy in Peoria, he was a weather guy there who'd been there forever. And said, you just remember, as you go through this, that you're in somebody's living room more than their best friend is. And that was Don Sharp to me, too, watching him, and just like, when your town's was covered or whatever too. Don Sharp, man,
Yeah.
So, and just a sweetheart of a guy, high character, and just he found a way to build humility into it that was rare. And I think the voice of reason was a good thing too. And just like, I don't think he took things more serious than they needed to be too. He understood we're the toys of the news department.
I remember getting to know him a little bit towards before he retired, and then he was a guest on the Score. It was Hoop Central, but he did like a guest hosting thing. So did Duncan Reed. I'd tell that story one of these days. I'll tell you when we get done. That was a interesting night. Jim Matson. I got a few more left.
Yeah, Jim Matson. So he's a guy in Peoria, and he interned with me, and I think we viewed things different or the same throughout our career. Like I think Jim and my thing, if you put everybody on at some point, they're going to watch. So every person in Peoria has been on TV, but
he works so hard.
It's unbelievable, and I don't know how he does the radio show. I listen to him a lot because I'm back and forth all the time. He's on the radio show from 2 to 4 every day, and then there's 8 million things that they cover, and he is in it for the right reason. I'd say he's evolved into just probably the face of their station down there too, and he does it for the right reasons too, and it's been fun for me. Like, he's been really receptive to me, knowing I'm at FCA, and like I've tried to say, hey, this is for God's glory and stuff. And then he's got a daughter at Monmouth. I did a story on her, and like there's just been some emotional things that that as dads that I've witnessed, and I love it. So, and he's done a great job, really, knowing, like you said, the amount of work he puts in, but he has found a way to balance his family life, and he lost his dad within the last year or two too, and that was a very moving thing where when you get on TV, like my brothers would always say, well, you just wanted mom's attention is what it was, but you see that the people, after you get over being on TV, it's like there's a lot of good you can do, and you get comfortable being on the air, and like Jim, Jim has crushed it, too, and he's Peoria TV right now. He never, I don't think he ever planned on leaving, and that's fine.
He's on my show a lot during the and of all the and here I am. The first time I asked him, he made fun of me the next morning. He goes, "Here, you're on a TV because it was 10:15," and he texted me, want to know what I was doing next. He goes, "You know what we're doing these days?" He's like, "You're probably relaxing, whatever." And I'm like, "No, it's different." But and he, of course, yes, absolutely, I'll do it, 100%. So one of those good people. Okay, Brian Stocking.
Brian Stocking would probably be, he's evolved from misunderstood to understood to, again, iconic, I guess, too. Like
Is he understood?
He is, he's hard to understand, you're right. But he's kind of like, even with, in the school district, he's kind of massaged his way into the culture there, where he's an important part of that culture. And you know what? I mean, he's built up credibility with the media part of it too, and he's a guy that will drive you out of your mind at some levels, but at the same time you'll defend him to the end. And that was kind of Bully. Like, if Bully can give him grief, whatever, but if anybody else is, Bully's his bodyguard too, So.
No, and I'm this, like, gosh, Dan, like, there's so many conversations where I'm like, you don't believe he's so loyal. Yeah. So it would be like one of them, and this is no offense to whatever Davenport school I'm talking about, but it was Davenport North going against maybe like Bettendorf, and I'm just like, every week I'd be like, so how are the Davenport schools going to do? And they'd be like, they would be going, and they've had good seasons, but like one would be at PV, one would be at Bettendorf, and one would be going to like Cedar Rapids, Kennedy or something. And he'd be like, well, I think we can go 3-0. I'm like, you don't think that though, do you? And he's just like, and I can get so frustrated, but the same thing, if anybody got cranky with him, I'd be like, well, leave him alone. He's stockpile. So he's awesome. Okay.
He's painfully loyal. He is painfully, and like, even like we used to do picks every week, the games we were covering, and we would everybody who's photographers, whomever, and he always finished last every year because of what you said. His loyalty probably got the best of him.
The Davenport schools in Riverdale, he'll do all of those as well.
God bless him.
If one more fun question for you, there's a state championship game, okay, and it's the biggest thing in the world, and you're covering it, and you need 3 other people to shoot this game with you for this massive worldwide movie debut of a high school game. What 3 people?
3 photographers.
Only 3.
Okay.
Only 3, and I'm going to make sure they all see this.
All right. Oh my gosh.
You don't have
I'm
to.
deferring to anybody in the room here, so
I
can go 3. Okay, because you're very talented.
No.
So
what was it? The I was so proud of my what was it? The Rock Ridge kid. Oh, why can't I? Carson Franks.
Right.
His shot, because we were the only. Long story with that one is we were in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah,
we rushed over to get there, and our competitors were eating Big Boy. They were tweeting about eating a Big Boy, and we were like there. So I was pretty excited about that, and got that shot. And when did you text me? You're like, did your Zoom not work? And I was like, I have like a backpack on, ready to go live. I'm shooting it like this. I'm just like, so yeah, I'm not exactly, but yeah, I always got did your Zoom work? Like, Dan, darn you. Okay, go ahead.
I was there. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm out of the mix.
There's so many though. I might have to go top 40 actually, but
you don't have to.
You know, like Hank Strong. You know, he went on to shoot Packer games and stuff, and like, it's holy cow, you know. And we had him. And,
see, I don't even think back that far.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking locally of the probably 3 people that are watching this right now, maybe 4.
Yeah, well, Greg, obviously.
No.
He came on. Corey is the Rainmaker.
Yeah.
There's a great Greg came on strong.
I'll let you off the hook. And just by saying there's a really good picture. I think you just put up the other day.
Yeah.
Whose birthday was it? Was it Bully's? Somebody's birthday or something. And it was you, Greg, Bully, and Cuff.
Yeah. That was probably Bully, tighter than tight. Almost to his detriment. I used to tell him, you got to start. I want to see the center. You know, if you want to zoom in as the guy's finishing up his last 10 yards, get on his face, whatever.
Yeah.
But there's been so many. Like a guy named Bob Palmer, you might not remember him. He ended up in Milwaukee, and he really taught me a lot. You know, the one he got one time, it was when Geneseo, they made it to state, and he ran behind a guy going to the victory bell and just lifted up, and then the guy starts ringing the bell, all one shot. And it was like, and you can hear another one bites the dust in the background. They had a band there and stuff, but just I'm sure I'm forgetting so many, but it's like there's a guy named Ross Farrow who was on fire too, and like Greg, to watch him kind of grow. Like he always says, you know, he came in right out of college and stuff, was very observant. He took criticism well.
Greg will come back and be like, "Oh man, you can see this. Look, you can see the laces on the ball. Look at the spiral. I mean, like it's right. I mean, and to your point earlier, I think, and not just with the high school football shows, but just in general, like photographers aren't valued the way they used to.
Right, exactly.
And you can see it throughout an entire newscast. But like on Friday nights, we pump out a lot of people. We used to like if last year we'd have 10 to 12. If I told Dan Burridge back now that we had 10 to 12 people shooting on a Friday night, there's these things called computers that you could get and just send files. You could share with. I mean, that's how it all evolved. But hey, if you can have a camera on your shoulder and go to a game, I'll teach you how to do it.
Yep.
And they'll be fine. But the quality of when you had all of those guys going out and shoot. I used to love when like Wheezy would shoot this year. I'd be like, okay, now we got Greg, Wheezy, me, Cuff, like we're getting ready to rock. Jenna does a really good job when she's not getting concussed.
Getting drilled.
Jenna got concussed this
year.
Well,
one like the Bully is like the guys that I had were so passionate about it too, and Bully was one of them. And I remember he was shooting a game in Aledo once, and some dude, I was listening like in between games, and some dude had an 80-yard run for a touchdown. I was like, I can't wait to see this. And then the highlights came on. I didn't see the 80-yard run, but the same kid had a 4-yard touchdown run, and then earlier he had another 80-yard run. He said, "Well, I wasn't all over it." And it's like, so I told him there's a 35-year-old dude married with 2 kids still waiting to see that play because it wasn't good enough for you.
I enjoyed it when they got beat, like Jerry Burt. Love Jerry Burt, but he'll come back and he'll be like, I got something, Daz, but I kind of lost him, and then I got back to him. I said, I love it. And he's like, you're just going to make fun of me, aren't you? I'm like, absolutely.
That's right.
That's the easiest way to do it is to do. Before I let you go, do you have, and it's really hard to do, so I'm not, because people ask me this too, is there when you think of the athletes you got to cover, What are some of the first ones that popped to your mind? I don't want to say your favorite because we can do another hour and talk about all those. But like I have the Chase and Randalls and the Pat Angers, my friend now, which is weird. But like I have those people that I've become close with. And I don't mean just friends now. I mean, that's probably different. But who did you enjoy cover? I loved watching Chase and Randall play basketball.
Yeah.
The individual he was, what he was like off the court, what he was and that's what I think we got to learn is if anybody wonders what's wrong with kids these days, I think kids are still kids.
Yep.
Like I think for the most part, when you go out there, I mean, Peyton Brown came over the other day. She's a fantastic young lady.
Yep.
Who are some of your favorites?
Yeah, I mean, I can go way back too. Like, there's I don't know why I
Moses.
remember this kid. Yeah, exactly. He could hit the three before they were threes. But there was this kid in Lincoln, Illinois, when I was working in Springfield, Donnie Isles, and he was just the penultimate three-sport guy. And I remember going out to Lincoln to do a story one time, and he had goggles and stuff too. He had the crew cut because I'm an athlete, too. And I remember like one of the things I would say, like if a guy hit a 3-pointer, got it, and I walked in and he did that. And it was like, holy cow, these guys are listening. There was a guy, Tavian Banks, I enjoyed covering him. And then Levance Bank, a kid named Greg Brown that people might not remember. But there was a kid named Tim Jackson who was a really good athlete, multi-sport guy over at Bettendorf too. But there was a guy at Moline who I didn't think he got as much. Travis Wilson was a really good basketball player. He went to Arizona and then transferred to Illinois State. But
wasn't it him and Hanovan?
Yeah.
Same time
he's
as
another
like
one.
Range and Thompson were
exactly. Those were just unbelievable days in Quad City sports. But I mean, some of the guys that made it big, it was great and everything. But I think I became appreciative of the middle of the pack guy. The guy that the program player. That's what Larry Jr. would always say. The guy is finally their year. And they're not going to average 8 yards a carry or anything, but they're the ones that have been just entrenched in a program for a long, long time. There's just been so many, and then to see them thriving in life now, it's like I could have predicted that, because they were just such wonderful kids, just when they were in high school and stuff, and see some of them coaching now. It's like I want them coaching the people that I love.
I love the winner. That you look at him, and this isn't being mean, Dylan, but like Dylan Sortillo to me was like, you look at him and it's like, well, he shouldn't win every time he steps on the basketball court. Yeah. But every time he stepped on the basketball court, his team won. And I think he still has the most victories in Augustana program history probably. And that kind of guy you love. And then just like I said, always the ones that like are willing to help out. I'm blessed to get to do my dad's golf outing every year. And so many, like you call them and they're just like, yeah, absolutely. Like Charles Juggesall to this day.
Right.
Like absolutely. I'll come back. I'm just like, really? Yeah. He's like, you're busy. You have things to do. And he's like, yeah, I'll be there. So,
well, I love not being able to think of them all, because I've been blessed to say, holy cow, there's just been so many, and they've enriched my life, and I'm just really thankful for that. Like I always think, man, did I stay too long or whatever? And like, you do. Like I said, there's some people. There was a guy. I did a story on a kid out in Bureau Valley last week. He said, I graduated from West, and I played on that undefeated basketball team under Coach Wessels, and I was like, I remember your last name. I think your sister is a really good softball player who went on to play, Division I ball, and it's like Tony Bruce, right? Yeah, so it's just you got to take advantage of moments, whether you're an accountant or a sports guy or whatever, too, because people really are paying attention. And
do you have a favorite team, like a team you covered? I've been going down memory lane with like the North Scott girls. Those 3 out of 4 years were awesome. Anything Assumption soccer was great. Rock Ridge softball has a dynasty. Rocky and Moline, both their state championships are great. I think some of the ones in the smaller schools, I probably tend to go to a little more as well because it just means more sometimes at those. But do you have, I guess, don't say a favorite, but like what are the teams that you remember covering the most, that you enjoyed covering the most?
Those really state champion Alito football teams with Cully, because we've remained in touch, and those Assumption, the stretch of the Assumption girls when it was soccer and basketball, the same girls. There were just so many good moments, and like the girls, I remember one year they let me shoot their pregame thing, and they're singing very churchy songs, contemporary Christian music songs too. It's like, man, it's just like, you get it. Like if you felt like if we lose, we lose.
Yeah.
And they just loved each other so much. And so moments like that. And even one of the Assumption state basketball championship teams was Randy Norton. Just, he did it the right way. He ended up, at UAB and everything, coaching, and his kids. I can't remember where he got a job. It might be at Indiana, assistant's job. And I remember he shaved his head as a 7-year-old because the whole team shaved his head the year they won the state championship.
Yeah.
But there were some great teams. It was fun covering the teams in Geneseo. There was one team, the 93 team. So I thought that was the best high school football team I've ever seen. Okay. And then they got upset in the championship game by a really good team too. So
the Rose Ripslinger years,
yes.
Charlie was young. He's 15, so he's probably 5. Maybe 4, maybe younger. And I would go and I'd bring my 2 kids that were small. I only had 2 to practice because they'd always leave early. Yeah. And Charlie would interview with us. And then there was one time that they all circled around him and he sang, oh God, I can't remember what it is. He hates this. He's not watching, so it doesn't matter. But those young ladies, they were awesome. I could take my kids places and they would just be I'd go do interviews and I'd look back and my kids were running around in the soccer field, kicking balls into the goal and stuff like that. Exactly. So cool. It's the things, the Friday nights are great, but it's the stories outside of that. Definitely. Well, Dan, I didn't know I was going to keep you over an hour. I hope you're ready for that. I hope you didn't have anything else.
I usually don't have that much of an attention span to keep paying attention so I appreciate that.
I could keep going on and on, but like I said at the beginning, thank you for being a mentor, for your support, all that kind of stuff. I think I guess I'll plug it. I think Greg and Mitch are wanting to do a podcast coming up soon with on View from the West with the memories of Friday night.
Oh, good. Well, that'd be fun.
I think we're both invited to do that.
Awesome.
So
Love it.
We can rehash some of these stories again on there as well. But thanks for coming out. Thanks for all the swag and stuff.
Sure.
Man, wait till the boys get home and see that.
They're going to be jealous.
I don't know if I'm putting that. That might go over the mantle in the living room.
Or above the dog cage, I noticed.
Penny would love that. Love that.
Hey, well, thank you for everything, too. I'm proud of you and all you've done with this. And it was a risk to do it, but you find out when you plunge in and, you found a great niche and just filling probably a need for some people that they didn't even know they had to be able to talk.
I didn't think this many people would care, which is kind of cool. Not that that's not, but it's that sounds braggadocious. But thanks for listening. Who does? So the one and only Dan Pearson. We got more to get to on today's show. Coming up after this, we'll go from one good dude to another good dude. Kenny Wheeler, the Pleasant Valley girls, wrapped up a MAC championship yesterday. We'll have more with Kenny Wheeler and much more right after this. You're watching Off the Air on a Friday right here in the Quad Cities.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Friday in the Quad Cities. It's a big week, a big couple weeks coming up for spring sports around the Quad City area. One of those is track. Conference meets going on a lot this week. And over in the MAC, the Pleasant Valley girls do what the Pleasant Valley girls do. Last night they won the MAC title once again. Their third straight year winning the MAC title. They've won 14 of the last 16, and they're led by this young man right here, head coach Kenny Wheeler. First and foremost, Kenny, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. It's a busy time of year, so to get a text message from an unemployed guy playing TV in his loft and for you to respond, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate, one, just the opportunity to talk about our team. I think, I could speak the world of, the women that are on our team, the amazing coaching staff that I'm blessed to be around with, and then just the chance to spread the word of track and field around the community is always something that I'm always happy to promote.
I love it. Well, let's start with last night. We got a lot to get to, but let's start with last night. I know you're super proud of your girls. I think they had 195 points, almost a 100-point victory. Just a dominating performance by the Spartans at the MAC meet. I know there's lofty goals and state and all those kind of things, but it starts with the MAC. How nice is it to get another championship and with these girls in particular, because I know it's a special senior group?
Yeah. Every year is a little bit different. And I think when you are constantly like orienting a new group of young women to the team each year, each team takes on its own personality and its own set of goals. And so the MAC meet is always important for us. It's really kind of our last opportunity as a giant team to sort of celebrate, our progress throughout the season. And the great part is, I feel like we're still getting better each week. We have a large team. We have 107 girls out this year, but we have a lot of freshmen and a lot of new upperclassmen. So just getting them oriented to, who we are and sort of this championship standard that we sort of uphold ourselves to is important. And then you want to send the seniors out in a big way. We have 30 seniors on our team this season. So, there aren't going to be many opportunities for them to get to experience being on a team moving forward. And so like we really push this up as, just one big hurrah of young women coming together, pulling for each other, and doing something special, as we move into the postseason.
It was a great night. And those numbers, Kenny, when you mention those, I know it says a lot about your program, and when I say your program, I mean yourself, but also you mentioned your coaching staff, a great group over there. But to have that many young ladies buying in to a great sport like that has to do, you just mentioned promoting the sport, building it like you guys have, to have those numbers. What does that mean to you and to the sport over at Pleasant Valley?
It means a lot. I think, when I first started coaching this team, I think our numbers were about 45 student athletes. And then the next year it jumped to right about 65, 70. Part of it's just the larger growth of our high school. But, we've done a really good job of promoting track and field at the elementary and junior high levels. We have a track and field camp in the summer that usually attracts anywhere from 150 to 200 kids. And then I think we make it known that, when you join our team, like, we don't cut anybody. There's no tryouts. And we want to make it an open and welcoming space for anybody to join. And I think the sport of track and field lends itself to that a little bit as well, when you've got just the diversity of events that you can sort of work and develop athletes, one, develop them as athletes, and then two, sort of develop them towards, where their strengths are and how those might line up with different events. And that's, I think, part of how we continue to just have success every year. I mean, we're just constantly developing, but we're also constantly getting kids excited about the sport and what they can do with it.
No, it's a beautiful thing that's been going on over at Pleasant Valley. The MAC championship almost buries the lead, and they're very important, but it was a great Drake Relays. And to have 4 young ladies break the Drake Relays record in the 4x8 relay. Just talk about their performance. I know anchored by a familiar name. I put Grace Bolin in that category that, like, I talk to a lot of you local athletes and I say, if I got a dime for every time I said your name while covering sports in the Quad Cities, I could have legitimately retired, because Grace is one of those athletes that it seems like she's been there forever. I know it's not long enough for you, but it seems like she's been there for a while.
Yeah.
Anchored by her and Ani. Just talk about those 4 young ladies and what they were able to accomplish at Drake Relays a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think, this season was a little bit different. A little bit in terms of just how they were sort of developing throughout the course of the season. And I think, to one, win a state title as a team, to set a state record in the 4x8, to be the first team to run under 9 minutes in a 4x8, whether they want to speak it or not, there's a lot of pressure on their shoulders, to try and replicate that, or, they understand, the news and following what's out there, and the challenge of trying to run faster. That's always what you want to try and do as an athlete, and certainly something you want people to sort of see as well. But I think to walk into Drake, I didn't think it was a given, partly because just the field is that much better this year. And sometimes I think for us, like, we set the standard, so now all these other teams are chasing us and coming after it. So, for them to do it, we love Ani in that leadoff spot. She doesn't like to be in traffic, but obviously having somebody that runs as fast as she does out in front, it gets us into a comfortable position. Ariel and Kaylee ran their best splits of the year. Kaylee Mountain's just a super competitive kid, kind of quiet, but I mean, like, you can count on her. She always gets the job done. And then Ariel is always just calm, cool, and collected. She might not show it. I'm sure on the inside, there's a lot of nerves there, but she's been a great addition to our team. And then just, the confidence of having an anchor like Grace Bolin on your team, where she's been as far as cross country accomplishments and track and field. You have all the confidence in the world that she's going to go out there and do it for her teammates and for her team. And, as a coach, when you have an athlete like that, when you have 4 athletes like that, it gives you a little bit of calmness to know that you can just kind of sit back and watch, and you don't get too nervous about the outcome. But it's really fun to have that foursome on our team.
What was that moment like? Because, Kenny, that's what, you think high school track, and I understand state, and I get that, but you're on the blue oval, Drake Relays, great weather, great environment, great crowd. What was that moment like to sit back? Like you kind of said, sit back and watch them make history.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Like the difference this year was, normally we get over to the Des Moines area for one of our outdoor meets. And it gives us a chance to run against some of those schools early in the season. And when we get to do that, it brings a little bit of familiarity of knowing what you're competing against. That meet got canceled this year. And so Drake was really the first time that we were really in a venue with all of these top teams. And, sure, there's some uncertainty when you haven't seen those teams before. But I think our kids are gamers. They love the challenge. I don't know if they always love the pressure that comes with, that challenge. And that's a lot. Like, they're still high school young women. And sometimes it's good for me to remind myself, like, these are still 15, 16, 17-year-old kids. But gosh, like, the fight and the courage and, the ability to rise to the occasion when it matters, like, that's the heart of a champion. And so, when you have kids like that on your team that are willing to step up and can lead by example, I don't know if there's a better position I'd rather be in as a coach.
Coach, I want to talk about another record of late. Gabby Reagan's in the discus set the school record, I believe, recently. Talk about just her development, what she's done, and that's another. I mean, you got a lot of things to be excited about this postseason, but she's got to be excited about the postseason as well.
Yeah. I think we were really fortunate, and I think she was fortunate, the last couple of years to have Reese Goodlet as a teammate, and when you have a teammate that is consistently, throwing 140, 150 feet, how can you not want to get better, when you come to practice every day? I think for her this year, and let me take a step back. The last couple of years, we've almost had to like restrict her from wanting to do other things. Like, there's been times where she'll approach us like about doing the high jump. I think she runs 200s for us. She's really fast. Like she is super athletic. And kindly, there's been a few times like, Gabby, like, we think you have the opportunity to win state. Let's steer back towards, the discus a little bit. But I also think being able to do other things takes a little bit of the pressure off there as well. So, her being a senior and along with Mackenzie Faw, they've created a great culture with our throws program. She put in a lot of good work with our current throws coach, and then also another coach that has been working with them privately. And so I think that's continued to help her development. She's going to continue to throw at Iowa State University. And I think that got her excited as well about, the event. So she's coming around at the right time. Field events, there's always a lot of ups and downs. And so I think she knows how to just sort of ride that wave and stay even keel. And so we continue to be excited about her, and she just brings a joy to our team that's unique to her.
Kenny Wheeler joining us right now and Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Coach, I always say, and especially when I was covering it all the time at WQAD, that like you hit Drake and it's such a fun month where you go Drake and then it's a few weeks later you got conference and then, it's boom, 2 weeks later you're at state. How do you approach that period? Am I right with the fact that it's a great season, but once you hit that Drake, it's such a, I don't want to say blur, but it's a race. It's a sprint to the finish, to take a cheesy analogy. Talk about how you approach this time, and especially moving forward now. What's your message to your athletes, to your young girls right now?
Drake Relays is, for me, I probably don't hold it to the same importance that our student athletes do, in the sense that for me, like it's not a scored meet. And so I always know, like, within like where we're at in terms of our training, like we're probably not going to be at our best. I mean, we've done really well the last couple of years, but that's not because we're getting ready for Drake. I think our larger goal is always the state meet, but it's always important to be at Drake Relays because for us, that familiarity of being on the Blue Oval, the chance to run against the best teams, and for our young athletes that have not been on that stage before, for them to have a chance to do that as sort of a dress rehearsal for state is so important for our development, these last few weeks. Once we get into, conference and our state qualifying meet and state, most of the hard work is done. I think the most important thing I've learned, and something I share a lot with my coaching staff this time of year, is like, we're going to make sure our athletes are the most confident that they can be. We're going to make practice as fun as possible, and we're going to enjoy, these last 2.5 weeks of the season. And I think, the performance is the reward. We work really hard in practice. We make sure we recover well and rest well. But, sometimes it's easy as an athlete to, put so much weight on the performance. Like this is the fun part.
Yeah.
Like you've put in the work. Like, now let's just let it happen and go out there and compete. And And so, yeah, I mean, we understand like, our standards are pretty high. We want to be a championship level team every year. And if not, like, we want to make sure we put ourselves in that conversation. But I always want my kids to know, like, you are going to be the most, if not one of the most prepared teams when we get to the state meet, and be ready to attack it. And whatever happens, happens.
When you look, couple more for Kenny, I'm gonna get him out of here real soon. But when you look at this team, and you mentioned that championship level, what do you like right now? Obviously, as a coach, you're preaching mental stuff and getting ready and all that kind of stuff. But what are the things that maybe you guys need to, not I want to say work on, but how does this team develop into maybe that state championship team, or is it at that point? Do you believe that it's at that kind of level?
Um, we're getting there. I think we're still, I think one of the things that we've always kept an open mind with is like we're continuing to develop. Like even at our MAC meet, like we saw a lot of young ladies take a huge step forward. And so, the coaches, we just sort of look at each other like, okay, what do we do now? It's a good problem to have. Um, but yeah, I still feel like we're figuring things out. We're gonna chat with our team about, the state qualifying meet and the state meet and how we make decisions on, our lineup because there's a lot of different things that go into that. Um, but I think the most important thing is just getting them to trust the plan that we're gonna have for them, and to know that we're gonna put our team in the best position we can to, if not come home with a state title, at least try and come home with another trophy.
Last one for you. You look at we kind of talked about before we started the interview. This is year 17, I think, for you. And
18.
it's crazy.
I redid it. It's 18. Yeah.
18. And with that, you must have started when you were 12, right? Because we both of us are young, right? We're still young.
Yeah. Right.
But you still connect so well, and the passion just talking to you is there. What's the difference between year 1 and year 18? Is there a big difference between the sport, young people, what you do every day, or is it just it's track, it's a sport that you love, and for the most part it's kind of stayed the same?
I think the most important thing that I've learned over time, not that I wasn't this way originally, like when I first started coaching, but I think I'm just more mindful of it, is just bringing my most like authentic self to practice like every day. Like that's true for our coaches, that's true for what we want our kids to be when they come to practice. And I think that is where you can start to open that door of developing that relationship with kids. Sure, I'm a head coach, but I'm understanding of sort of the power dynamic there, but I want to be able to relate to my kids, my own children. My oldest is in high school, so I know the lingo, a little bit better, and what kids are tapped into. But I just, from a track and field standpoint, I'm way more confident. My first couple of years, I was like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, and so I just kind of hit the books and took some classes and some different things just to kind of help me prepare better. But now I can sort of coach by feel, and sort of the art of coaching. I don't have to like, what workout works well today? Like, sometimes I can write a workout like that day just because I know where we're going, but I also am mindful of where we're at. So it's a really fun point right now because it's not as stressful.
No,
I don't know if I'll feel that way tomorrow, but
wait till Saturday at Drake Stadium, and we'll see how not as stressful it is. Kenny, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time. I know it's a busy time. I always love catching up with you. I've missed seeing you out and about, being stuck in my loft here in Milan, Illinois. But I appreciate it. Best of luck. Have everybody stay healthy. Enjoy the postseason, and we'll talk to you real soon.
I appreciate you having me on, and if there's another opportunity, I'm sure we'll love to jump at the chance.
Absolutely. We will do that. Kenny, appreciate you.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
That is Kenny Wheeler, the girls track coach over at Pleasant Valley. They were your MAC champions last night once again. 14th time in 16 years, their third straight. It should be a successful postseason for the Spartans, and we can't wait to watch it as well. We got more to get to. You're watching Off the Air on a Friday right here in the Quad Cities. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Yeah, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with.
Quad Cities, are you brave enough for halfway to Halloween? Friday, May 16th, the Steamwheelers battle on Tulsa in a night of haunted hits and bone-crushing indoor football action. It's spooky fun for the whole family, complete with a haunted house and high-flying IFL football that'll leave you howling. Snag your tickets now at steamwheelersfootball.com/tickets and come get scared and entertained. Friday night, May 16th, presented by Asylum of Bad Dreams and Slick Willie Radio.
Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Friday in the Quad Cities. Thank you guys for watching. If you're on YouTube, if you are watching this on X as well, we appreciate that. It's been a fun show, and as you can see, I got a new picture for the set. I got to figure out where I'm going to put Brian's stocking. God bless him. Dan Pearson, awesome to have him on the show today. And he gets cranky when I call him this, but a legend when it comes to covering sports here in the Quad Cities, a mentor and a friend. So for him to come out, excuse me, on a Friday afternoon, or Friday morning, excuse me, and chat, going down memory lane and all of that kind of stuff as well was a ton of fun. So also thanks to Kenny Wheeler. Talk about another great dude, great human being, does things the right way at Pleasant Valley High School. And you're going to be hearing a lot of good things about the Spartans, I think, over the next 2.5-3 weeks. So we wish them and all the area athletes getting ready for the postseason and all the spring sports the best of luck and staying healthy and all those good kind of things. So a couple things before we go today. The 11th annual Guy Randazzo Memorial Golf Outing is 5 weeks from tomorrow. There are a few teams still available. So if you're interested in getting yourself a team, we've talked about it several times on the show, but Plenty of familiar faces out there. It's far from your regular golf outing. A lot of familiar faces. Cole Rusk is bringing a team from Illinois. Last year, Luke Altmaier was one of those people. So QB1 could be here as well. Zach Ortworth is captaining an Iowa football team. So they'll go head-to-head. So it'll be Iowa versus Illinois out there. That's always a bunch of fun. Charles Jugasoff from Notre Dame will be out there. Pat Angerer, Joe Conklin, Tom Kakert, myself. Familiar faces from WQAD like James Zahara is teeing it up again this year. My good friend Corey Kuffler, Shelby Kluver helping out as well. So plenty of familiar faces. It's a great time. Snoops, chips, and salsa on the course, and then he caters the meal afterwards. So go to GuyRandazzoGolf.com and get a team signed up. If you can't golf and you're interested in being a whole sponsor as well, there's a whole sponsorship there that you can fill out. Also, if you're interested to help out even more, just give me a contact or contact me directly, and we can definitely chat as well. So June 14th at Highland Springs Golf Course in Rock Island. Also, we want to thank you guys for watching all the shows this week. Great content throughout the week. Last Friday, a week ago today, we talked to Kirk Ferentz on the show. Go check that out. Next week, efforting Brett Bielema from Illinois. So I'm excited about that. We'll let you guys know when we know the day and all those kind of things as well. Also, Kendra Lewis will be on Monday. Pat Angerer, as always, on Monday. So a lot to get to on a Monday. So the beauty part of my new gig is that my weekend starts as soon as I wrap this show up. So a lot of youth baseball this weekend. Of course, it's Mother's Day weekend. So make sure you wish your mom or your wife a happy Mother's Day. All those important moms out there, do that. I wish my mom and my mother-in-law a happy Mother's Day. My lovely wife is the best mom to 4 boys. So happy Mother's Day to her. So don't forget moms on Sunday. You should always treat them good, but treat them extra good this weekend as well. And we'll be back with a brand new week of shows coming up next week. As I mentioned, Brett Bielema and a whole bunch more next week. Thank you guys for watching Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. And as always, thank you to our fantastic sponsors of OTA. Have a great weekend, Quad Cities. We'll see you back here on Monday.